I don't blame big tech. The purpose instilled to us from birth is to get an education, to get the best jobs, which pays the most to benefit our own self-interests. Then we have sprogs for whom we can hopefully provide a better education, and, by democratically engineered happy coincidence, this sweetens the cycle even more for the country, as their better productivity and money benefits the economy too. So, when Bezos had Amazon in his back pocket, I'm not surprised he further monetized it, nor can I blame him. I'd have done the same. There, I admit it. He also can't be blamed for not foreseeing what it would become. How could he? Cookies were only an annoying practical necessity back then. It was probably some tech-curious gobshite from marketing that suggested they could harvest more info than just what we added to our baskets on the last page. If anyone around a CEO's table at any of the Silicon Valley giants could have foreseen where ferocious data hoarding cookies would take us, then that would certainly be one of the few that went some way towards actually justifying their eye-watering salary. We're here now. Many are billions better off, and I don't suppose it's ever bankrupted anyone in return, so I suppose it was worth it. Cookies, I mean. Amazon probably has bankrupted millions. I wonder if it's how much they're worth that makes it so difficult for Amazon to spend its own money. It seems strange that these poor old economic behemoths constantly need our tax revenue invested in the form of grants and subsidies to open their anti-human data factories when you think about the difference that money would have made in the public sector. Nobody can say the NHS is the best, but it is at least doing something worthwhile, and a hell of a lot considering the pittance they're given. In fact, based on productivity per pound, it's the most efficient health service in the world. I cannot level that accusation at global conglomerates. Anyway, where was I? These websites run autonomously, gathering data about what we like in order to sell us more of it. Okay, fine. I accept Marks and Spencer's doesn't want to spend its advertising budget trying to sell sturdy lady garments to me, but instead wants to keep us on their website showing us more stuff we'll engage with, so we'll keep scrolling past adverts, paid posts, and maybe even buy something. So what's the point of eye tracking, do you think? You've had it on your phones since iOS 18 2024 and Android Snowcone 2021. It's in the accessibility settings as eye tracking in iOS and switch access in Android, and you've probably got it off. Probably. Its purpose is to give your poor thumbs a rest and give those without the ability to scroll through their phones without touching the screen, and, of course, it may have other small benefits, such as understanding how users interact with ads and sites, determine which elements attract attention or are ignored, and of course, if it's watching your eyes, it's watching the rest of your face too. Isn't it annoying when there are two ads on a doom-scrolling phone screen and the app can't tell which one you're looking at, or which headline you studied the picture of more? Ads need better data to make it more personal to you, which I'm sure you want. For years, I had to drive past billboards for women's perfumes, getting enraged it wasn't of any interest to me, and I had to ignore it even though I so desperately wanted there to be something I could dawdle past and engage with. Let's take a simpler look at what modern cookie hoarded data can be used for, with a physical example. If Germany suddenly started airdropping, original meaning of airdrop, not the iPhone one, right-wing propaganda pamphlets across the UK, then the hat-trick for World War victories would finally be on, and James Bond would immediately be put on alert because these would be seen as a threat to national security. Well, that's what we may be up against now, only the foreign nations paying for these pro-ideological adverts have greater anonymity than a plane dropping the pamphlet from the sky. And I'm not saying it's only dictators, fascists, and right-wing extremists. I can easily imagine our Western states have been using dummy advertising corporations and algorithms to target changing anti-democracy sentiments in foreign nations of interest for years. How much more effective would it be if your nation's authoritarian spies gave you details of all the English men who didn't go to university? Well, now you've got a chance of posting your pamphlets direct and tearing the country apart from the inside, and in secret. Sorry for stereotyping, by the way. Let's play out the modern cookie war as a thought exercise. Let's say your country is at economic and ideological odds with a foreign country. We'll call it Bina. Divide and conquer is the old maxim, so let's say you have an AI like Google Gemini that generates memes with pictures. You set up 2 Facebook groups for free. One group posts memes poking fun at authorities during the latest tragic news, emphasizing their hilariously ineffectual helplessness sat on the sidelines. The other posts memes about the tragic news and how everyone was shocked but just got on with their day regardless, heads down, stressed about work. You pay a handsome sum through anonymous crypto to push your post to as many feeds as possible. Then, using tax-subsidized processing power of Facebook's servers, cookies, and algorithms for the results, you could then tell which users liked them, which users commented, which users dawdled as they scrolled past each. In other words, how they engaged with each post. But the critical info is, individually, which did each user engage with most? Now, if you get your posts in front of 10 million people, most will have had a preference, and after a week, you might now be able to split them all into 3 groups. Let's say 5 million engaged with the latter, more liberally designed post, and 4 million with the former, more authoritarian concocted post, and 1 million engaged equally with both. For the 1 million, you send them more testers until you eventually peg them into a corner, and once you have everybody in just 2 demographics, you now pay Facebook's marketing fees for each group's post to keep targeting just their respective demographics, only now both of your robotic Facebook groups can start progressively generating more extreme and exaggerated views in their ideological courtyard until they abandon the pretense of memes and start looking more like headlines, outraged at the other group's opposing views. Both of these groups gently push the emotions of their target users further and further until they're both acclimatized to the extreme rhetoric. Both left and right groups were created and funded by you, a foreign nation, and, come the next election, that will raise the temperature of the divide considerably. The unity, culture, and ideology of Biner has been split. Now, of course, big tech needs only for there to be any Facebook group, Instagram influencer, verified Twitter user, or YouTube channel canvassing their social mediums daily with lighter, more easily engageable content for it to record the data of who bites so they can sell it to others who will then expose those it picks to increasingly marginalized views, claiming it's free speech as they keep virtually shouting at you and outbidding other voices. These views aren't overtly under the banner of political parties, though they are. They're under the banner of news or opinions. Social media sold its tricks to all media. Practically every website and app is now social media behind the curtain. It's now engagement algorithm media with straight up fake, misleading, or carefully created cherry picked facts paid for in crypto by politicians driving disgust. Think about this and tell me politics isn't making use of social media's pay-for-exposure version of free speech. Targeting users sat in bed pretending to try and sleep. We've never cared about politicians before. Suddenly we're fighting for them like we're football hooligans. Facebook apparently offers EU users a premium account that stops advertisements, and I hate advertisements. I avoid them like the plague. I download each song I like individually so that I can upload them to a playlist I can listen to without adverts. And I won't listen to the radio for the same reason. They're a waste of my time and I hate it because I listen to music for the very specific effect it has on me. Adverts ruin that. Neither will I consider paying for the subscription to Spotify because then I'm paying for 1 billion songs when I only listen to about 50 tried and tested ones. Netflix also wants me to pay for a lot of shite I do not ever want to watch. The thought of paying for ad-free makes you realize how worthless this app is to you and how essential you are to it, to make money out of you one way or another, and social media doesn't have any desired effect on me. I'm just annoyed that I set up my Meta accounts while it was all still innocent fun and games. Now look, I'm invested and stuck with a decade of memories I'm sure my kids will one day be happy to see me delete as an especially uncurated and embarrassing photo album. Of course, I do know how to fix all this and actually put the data hoarded by social media to good use, so sit tight, it won't take long. OFCOM. They ensure that because of the cost of the TV license, the BBC stays impartial. They also ensure the company I work for, OpenReach, provides equality of service to all providers despite being a wholly owned subsidiary of just one of them, BT. I can confirm OpenReach does this very effectively, and I have no idea nor care for which service provider I am doing our work for. So, regulation is easily possible. The current American administration, and the Vice President in particular, has targeted Europe for stifling free speech, and I know you know it's a thinly veiled shield to protect their homegrown Silicon Valley economic juggernaut marketing corporations who are worried about further curtailments to their cookie-fueled advertising revenue monopoly. Worried that the simple laws we can force car makers to abide by, like seatbelts, will, to their great horror, be applied to big tech. How will they siphon off millions from political parties if they can't track people? Did you know that Meta generates a staggering $2.22 million per employee? I'll leave you to guess what proportions of that is for head table salaries and how much is left for the 74,000 just still barely holding on to their jobs working for Meta, Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram globally. Nobody likes the other side's opinion. Lefties laugh at comedians poking fun at the incompetence of the Daily Mail's journalism, whilst the Daily Mail readers laugh at the incompetence of the under-25s they read about. But free speech means both, not just what the person already prefers and not just about those most well-funded. Let's have it right first. Only hate speech and intent to cause harm is regulated in Europe, and free speech is still fine. But I get the point. If Gary thinks the mosque down the road is a front for criminal activity, he should have the right to say that, because if he didn't, and he was right, we'd be fooled to protect the criminals from his accusations because of their culture. But if Gary is wrong and he's just prejudiced, what do? He reports it to the police, nothing is found, and he goes on shouting his convictions anyway, because he's still prejudiced. But instead of involving the police, he involves the community on socials, joins other groups who think he's right in spite of a lack of evidence, and pay for the marketing expense and clickbait to outshout the police on Twitter. At this point, the courts have been moved to the street, and a new breed of defense lawyers may be needed to fight mobs in the court of public opinion. This is where I think social media could step forward and prove to be helpful. If I show even the most basic LLM AI like Microsoft Copilot one of my many left-wing posts and ask it to generate a contrary opinion, it could do it. If I asked it to find an article displaying an opposing view, it could do that too. I bet that one working in tandem with Facebook's algorithm could easily find a real alternate view post on Facebook and push it in front of the user, with probably only a few degrees of separation too, as Kevin Bacon taught us. Less of the onus on trying to fact-check opinions or community notes nonsense. Let's put these algorithms to work fixing the problems they've created, with free speech being up for grabs to the highest bidder. And you'll notice here that free speech is not only maintained, but encouraged, no matter what the cookies tell the algorithm about the user. Personally, I don't see why news agencies and newspapers can't be regulated to do the same. After all, why does the news have any political angle, even when it's about politics? If the majority of politics is run by money, can't it all be as factual as science? Why can't the Daily Mail be forced to hire a left-wing journalist to counter-argue throughout the paper? The Daily Mail and The Guardian could simply swap half their journalists to dive into the facts. Even if the only solution is a middle ground compromise, for every opinion there is a counter-argument from the left, right, up or down. If we have to pay for the right to access free speech that hasn't been pushed in front of us by money, then nobody will opt in for it, so this is the next logical option. Have the companies force free open discourse upon its users. Easily enactable, easily enforceable, and still profitable, as now both sides can be charged for the exposure. Exhibit A. The user saw a post ridiculing trans parents today, and with the power of the world's life experience at its fingertips, social media should be reasonably able to find a contrary opinion, shining a favourable light on trans parents, and be forced to put that in front of the same user. They may not agree, but at least that's now free speech in action, and the only person to blame is the individual user's free choices. Fully enacted, this could end any accusation of responsibility for some omniscient multi-billion-dollar megacorporation with zero accountability for what its users are shown by its hyper-focusing algorithms, whilst living alongside uncomfortable and stock-shortening accusations of bowing to well-funded political pressures, both domestic and foreign. I'll give Zuckerberg this idea for free, just as long as it protects my years of curated Instagram content. Now, I still need to think of a solution to stop the endless adverts I'm seeing for Black & Decker tools, because I searched for one online whilst brainstorming ideas for my wife's birthday back in May.